Question number 4. Are we going to do rainbows, your distributive property? We're going to distribute the subtraction sign here and here. So whenever I distribute my subtraction sign, one of them is going to come here, so it's going to be a negative 5x. Another one's going to come over here, and when you're subtracting a negative, it's going to be a positive. And if you'll notice, these are now the opposites of what they were, and we're going to change this to adding. You don't actually need your parentheses whenever you distribute your negative because there's nothing left to separate, but I wanted to put it in there so that we can see when we combine like terms, the symbols. So we have 2x and we have negative 5x's, and if you want to stack them so that you can see that was a positive because it's out front. And then you can type your coefficients, the positive 2 and the negative 5 into Desmos to get a negative 3, and then these are x's. Then you have your constants. We have a minus 3, which looks like a negative 3, and we have a plus 6. And when you put those together, you get a positive 3. It's important that you add that plus sign in between. Final answer for number 4. For number 5, are we going to do distributive property? Are we going to do the rainbows? Yes, we are, because we see a number right next to those parentheses. And we also have one over here right next to those parentheses. So you're going to do 2 rainbows. You're going to distribute that negative 3, and that is a negative 3 twice. And then you're going to come over here and distribute this negative 2 twice. If at any point in time you are unsure about your signs, please type it, bless you baby, please type it in to your Desmos to make sure that you get the right answer. This is negative 3h. Negative 3 times h is negative 3h. Negative 3 times a negative 4 is going to be a positive 12. Again, if you're not sure, type it in so that you can see your answer and make sure that you're getting it right. So you have your positive 12. Then we do distribution with the negative 2, and negative 2 times a negative 6. It's going to be a positive 12h. And then we have a negative 2 times a positive 5. That's going to give you a negative 10. Again, if you are ever unsure, please go type that in to make sure that you're getting your right answers. The next step is to combine like terms. So we have h's and more h's, and we are going to include the symbol that tells us if it's a positive or a negative. And if you need to stack, you can. Negative 3 h's plus 12 h's. And again, whenever you're typing this in on Desmos, and if you're not sure what buttons to press, it's going to tell you you have a negative 3 and a positive 12. And whenever you do this, again, you don't have to use your Desmos if you know your rules, but it never hurts to check if you're unsure if you're getting it right. When you have different signs, you're going to subtract your numbers here to get 9, and you know if it's a positive or negative based on which one there's more of. Are there more negatives or are there more positives? So we have 9h, and 9 was on our Desmos, so you know that we have 9 h's. Then you're going to look at your constants. We have a positive 12 and we have a negative 10. When they're different signs, you subtract just your 12 and your 10, you get 2. And which one is there more of? There's more positives. If you're unsure, you go type it in on Desmos, and you can even with Desmos put that plus sign in the front. You can't do this on a TI-84. You just have to put 12 minus 10. But on Desmos, it's okay if you do that plus in there, and you can see that the answer that we got was correct. Final answer, 9h plus 2. Remember, the more that you can attempt on your own and then check yourself, the better place you're going to be in. If you're just copying down notes, that'll help you, but not as much as if you try some of these on your own. So the next one we're going to do, We don't have one exactly like this where we have a fraction that's going to be a repeating decimal on the test. So I'm going to show you how to do this one using fraction rules by hand for part of it. All right, so we know that we're going to do our distribution because we have a number right next to the parentheses, and that means multiply. So we're going to multiply, and there's two pieces inside our parentheses, so we have a binomial. So we have 1/4 times q is 1/4 q, just like right above it when we did 2 times x, we got, not 2 times, there we go, right up there, you can see this one. The -7 times the 2x, we get our answer. Maybe this one might be better over here. I'm not finding one that I want. There we go. -3 times x was, or -3 times h was -3h. Whenever I do this, it's the same thing even though it's a fraction. We have our 1/4 and then our right next to our q, that means multiply. Then we're going to multiply these. 1/4 times a -12. A positive times a negative is going to be a negative. And then I know that this answer is going to be a 3 because I know that I can reduce diagonally. If you don't know that, you can take it out to the side and do it by hand, or you can actually just type it in. 1/4, and then we're multiplying, because every time we go across that parentheses, we say times, and then a -12. And you can see that we got a -3 right here. What I did was like this if you wanted to see the rule. To make 12 a fraction, you can stick a 1 under it, and then I just reduce diagonally. 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 12 3 times, and then I did top times top and bottom times bottom. And I thought that was on the screen, but there you go. So I stuck a 1 under it, and then I reduced by 4, dividing by 4, dividing by 4, top times top, bottom times bottom. And then we're going to do the same thing. We are going to multiply by 1/3 now. So we have 1/3, and it is a positive 1/3 times q. So we have a positive 1/3 q. And then we have 1/3 times 9. So again, what I'm doing is 1/3 times 9. You can make it a fraction by putting a 1 under it. When you multiply, you can reduce diagonally. 3 can go into both of those. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 9 3 times. So the answer is going to be 3. And if you don't trust that, or you don't know how to do it, you can type it in on your Desmos. 1/3 times, because we're going across that parentheses, 1/3 times, we got to get out like this, go sideways, and then times 9, and then we get our 3. And that's where this comes from. As I was typing it in, you might have noticed that whenever I was down here, if you just press times, that's not what we want. So we need to get out by going sideways, get out of the fraction, and then multiply it by that 9. And that's where that 3 comes from. Then we're going to combine like terms. On your test, again, you're not going to have different denominators, so you'll be able to just combine like terms by looking at what you have. I'm going to have to do a little bit more work. If you do this on Desmos, you'll get a decimal, and the decimal is not going to come out nice. Plus 1/3 right here. This is not an okay answer in algebra. So I'm going to show you how to do it with fractions. If we have a multiple choice situation, you can always take your multiple choice answers and make the decimals match. But I'm going to show you how to do this one with our fraction rules. When you want to add fractions, you have to get the same denominator. So what is a multiple of both of these? 12. So you can rewrite it so that they both have 12 on the bottom. So how do I get a 12? I multiply by 3. So I'm going to multiply the top by 3 also. So that's going to be 3 over 12. And then I want to get this one to have a 12 on the bottom, so I would multiply by 4. So this one is 4 over 12. And when you're adding those, you get, I did all kinds of math off screen. 7 over 12. And if you want to double check, again, if this was a multiple choice question, this would be in your answer choice, and all you would need to do is see if it matched. And it does if you look at your Desmos. So I'm going to go ahead and use the proper form, 7/12 Q. And then when I put my -3 and my +3 together, if you want to stack those to see what you would type in, a -3 and a +3 make a 0 pair. And so your answer is just 7 over 12 Q.